Hi again. The next area that we're going to talk about is potential to improve transportation systems through connections to land use. I'm going to discuss two concepts here. One is related to promoting flexibility in land development, and the next to promoting context-sensitive roadway design. So one of the issues that's really challenged transportation and land use for about the past half century is this paradigm of separation of land uses, where you've got residential land uses that are separated from commercial land uses, which are separated from industrial land uses. And this pattern of separation has really dominated within development of suburban areas. And as much as it seems like mixed-use urban cores are on the rise, certainly we've seen some recent growth in that area, especially as a lot of young people have been interested in moving back into urban places. We still see a lot of growth in the suburbs. So we can't ignore that suburban landscapes will have a continued or maybe even an increasing role in urban form over the next several decades. So what can we do to try to promote suburban development that is more efficient in terms of transportation, that maybe allows for more diverse modes rather than just driving? And one of the main areas where we could start to make these changes has to do with mixed uses, with reducing the separation of residential areas like you see here from, more industrial or commercial areas that are in these pockets, but rather, integrating some of those uses together so that you have a landscape that is more walkable and might also be able to promote some transit development. So that idea of creating mixed-use development landscapes, even in a somewhat lower density suburban context, has been a real priority of a movement called the New Urbanism, which is all about how you can, promote mixed-use forms, promote zoning codes that don't separate so much by use, but are more oriented towards the form of the design, something called a form-based code, and enable these developments that fit into a suburban context, but have a much broader spectrum of uses and where those uses are mixed in the same place, and therefore enable many more options in terms of transportation. The second concept related to land use that I want to talk about has to do with the way we design roads so they fit with their land use contexts. So as roads have gotten larger over the last half century and have been more focused on mobility, on moving large volumes of traffic, one of the things that we've seen is standards for road design that are really based around rural or fairly low-density suburban places being carried into urban places where they really don't fit. So we see, very large roads with minimal facilities for example, walkers and bikers on them, and lots of large, complex intersections with things like turning lanes and lots of signal infrastructure, maybe very long phases between the directions that are allowed for movement with the signals, which allow higher volumes of traffic to move, but are really bad for walkers and bicyclists. So a lot of these standards for roadway design are taken out of manuals that, as I said, weren't really developed for these more urban places. And that has led recently to an interest in developing more context-sensitive roadways. So these are roadways that still might provide for a fairly large amount of traffic movement. You can see, this road still has 4 lanes, but also has facilities adjacent to it that are appropriate for more urban contexts, like walking, like bicycling, perhaps mixing transit in there. Making sure that these are spaces that are not just built for automobiles in the way that a highway might be, outside of an urban context, but also that the highway design is really reflective of the land use context around it.